This is the third radio show for Artist First Radio Network. My name is Vens. I'm living in the Netherlands and I work as a composer and a musician. And today I want to talk with you about rest and relaxation. Yes, friends, I like to invite you into another world, another way of thinking maybe. Today we will arrive in the world of the strange vibrations of the singing bowls. The singing bowls, and the question is, what can they do for us? So now for Radio Artist First Network, a totally different program about working with these singing bowls in the institutes for care, in the hospitals, in the institutes for psychiatry, and the many, many silent old people who are waiting for, yes, waiting for what? What can we do for them? Maybe your parents or your grandparents are living there too, more or less in silence. You know, the nurses have no time to talk or to listen to them. That's the situation here in Holland, and I believe it's in many countries like here. Some of the old people are already with one foot arrived in another world, and they don't speak anymore the language that we speak. They do not have questions for the normal world anymore. What can we do? I discovered for more than 20 years ago the possibilities of the singing bowls. These singing bowls are often made in Tibet, in the Himalaya, and used by the local monks for many things. For example, they like to teach the young monks, children, that there is a relation between the plants and the trees, the human beings and the planets. And they use these singing bowls to create silence and concentration, because they want to arrive in another inside level, not the thinking, but they first want to discover a kind of silence. Dear friends, we talk about the discovering of a new kind of communication by the singing bowls made in Tibet. Since many years I give concerts with the Tibetan singing bowls. Some people say these bowls are made of 7 different kinds of metal. But somehow it doesn't matter. I think the old creators in the past want to say 7 is all, 7 is everything, and 7 is a symbol for the whole world or for the whole body. Some of these singing bowls are more than 4,000 years old, and they are found in Japan and in other countries, in Tibet, in the Himalaya, India. The people who are listening to these intensive concerts are people with a mental handicap, elderly, dement people, and Alzheimer clients in the last periods of their life. What I hope to create is rest, relaxation, personal attention, and a new kind of communication. Without words, just only sound. Especially for the people who have no possibilities anymore for a normal communication. For the many and many silent people. Yes, I call them the silent people. And why we talk about Tibetan singing bowls here on Radio Artist First Radio Network. Because more and more I see these silent people for whom talking is no longer possible. But something within me wants to create a form of communication, wants to be a listening ear for them. And these singing bowls help me to hear more, understand better what the other person wants to say or where he or she is already. The singing bowls help me to touch the other without words. The singing bowls are made in Tibet and express in a serene and subtle way many high and low tones. You won't hear melodies, rhythms, or well-known structures in a concert, but it's possible that the listener will have an experience of silence, more intense inner rest. The listener can relax physically and mentally. They can feel the improved circulation of warmth, blood, energy, which can create an harmonious connection to the environment, the cosmic unity. This can create an inner silence or healing, more connected to the inner world. Much is possible. Sometimes just only relaxation, sometimes people see colors, some feel harmony, some become very aware of their own feelings. But they can look at that very quiet. The call from inside is there. Artist First radio station, and my name is Paul Vens. I'm a singing bowl player in Holland and sometimes in other countries too. When you play these singing bowls for somebody, the reactions are different. Every time, you never know what the reaction will be of a person. But there is always an effect and a result. Some people discover a blush on their cheeks, arrive in an atmosphere of wondering about the feelings that the singing bowls can create. The unique vibration of the singing bowls creates a unique movement within the body of the listeners, which cannot be created by other instruments or sounds. People who can still talk about this experience in the normal way talk about abandoning oneself, to serenity, rest, harmony, relaxation on a deep level, wellness. Sometimes people really hear wonderful singing somewhere, like they hear a choir. Yes, you're listening to Radio Artist First Network. And my name is Paul Vens, and we talk about the singing bowls made in Tibet. What can they do for us? I see when I give a concert, sometimes the problems that there are seen by the listener on another level, or disappear unexpectedly. With the dement, or maybe you can say the sick people in the last days, very often you cannot communicate with them with words. But by playing these singing bowls, there is communication in another way. Several times I've seen that the outside world becomes smaller and the inner energy becomes more and more awake and more essential, with an unusual feeling of unity, like you have touched an almost forgotten part of the human life, which is not normally touched in daily life. What I see in the life of people with a mental handicap is a silent, harmonious connection to oneself, to the most important part of themselves, the part that is the source of the spiritual person. still talk about the effect or the result of playing the singing bowls. The singing bowls who are very often made in India and Tibet. I don't know if you believe me, but I once met a man who was had a question for me, and he says, I want to hear the sound of the singing bowls just before I die, and he was not far away from that point. He wanted to make the last step to the other world more easier. There is a potential to create silence or healing in emotional fears only by a silent and listening presence and the serene sound of these singing bowls. But every listener has, of course, his own relationship to himself. There may be limits. Perhaps people are not in harmony or do not trust this new world, the sound of the singing bowls. But when sometimes the second time produces a different effect and perhaps more intense than the first experience. I play for you a song for a safe home. I know that is a rather popular piece of music in the USA. I've seen that on the iTunes statistics. Song for a Safe Home.